Welcome back. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here today. In this explainer, we're cracking open a truly fascinating, highly detailed UN Strategic Toolkit guide. We are looking directly at the United Nations peacekeeping force in Cyprus, and specifically the incredibly complex machinery that keeps it running. When we think of peacekeeping, we almost always just picture the blue helmets on the ground, right? But today, we're going behind the scenes. We're looking at the administrative engine room that actually makes their vital work possible. And honestly, whether you're running a multinational corporation, leading a big team, or you're just a total nerd for extreme logistics like I am, there is a literal masterclass in management hidden inside this toolkit.
To really grasp the scale of what we're looking at, we've got to start right here, 1964. That is the year the UN Security Council established the peacekeeping force in Cyprus, known as UNFICP. This makes it one of the longest-standing peacekeeping operations in the entire world. And just looking at that date raises an immediate, massive logistical puzzle.
Exactly. Who actually keeps a mission of this size and duration fully operational? I mean, we're talking about feeding, funding, equipping, and connecting thousands of people across literal decades of geopolitical shifts, not to mention processing a truly terrifying amount of paperwork. Okay, let's dive into this, because the answer doesn't lie on the patrol lines. It's found in a highly specialized administrative backbone.
Here is our blueprint for today's explainer. We'll start with a 6-decade peacekeeping mission, move to the mission support engine room, break down the 4 pillars of support, explore the 10 strategic dimensions, and finally, wrap up with navigating liquidity and change.
Section 1. A 6-decade peacekeeping mission. The operational reality of UNFCIP.
So, operating in the Eastern Mediterranean for this long carries massive stakes. As you can see, it was established in 64, buffer zone monitoring kicked off in 74, and we're still going today. This kind of incredible longevity demands a totally different approach. Unlike newer missions that might see rapid mandate expansion and constant shifting of goals, UNFCIP requires extreme operational efficiency. It's about rigorous cost discipline and a relentless focus on long-term sustainability. You aren't just setting up camp for a few months, you're maintaining a permanent fixture of international stability.
Section 2. The Mission Support Engine Room. The Quorum Solution.
Down at the very center of this massive logistical undertaking is the Quorum, the Chief of Operations and Resource Management. This is a senior P5 leadership position. The best way to think about it is this. While the peacekeepers are up on deck navigating the geopolitical waters, the Quorum is down in the engine room. They report directly to the Chief of Mission Support, and their entire job is to make sure the operation doesn't flood, doesn't break down, and never ever runs out of fuel. They bring absolute coherence to all those complex functions that cut across the entire mission.
The Source Toolkit describes this role as preventative institutional insurance. I absolutely love that phrase. It basically means that by investing heavily in rigorous, consistent internal management, the Quorum is actively preventing catastrophic administrative or financial disputes from ever happening in the first place. It's like fixing a tiny leak before the ship ever has a chance to take on water.
So, the crucial point is this. The Quorum treats institutional management as a highly specialized professional discipline in its own right. It is, quote, not merely as an administrative afterthought to the programmatic delivery. It's the core enabler of the entire mandate. Simply put, if the administration fails, the peacekeeping fails.
Section 3. The 4 pillars of support, synthesizing the core sections.
Let's look at exactly what the Quorum is managing down in that engine room. The toolkit outlines 4 core pillars of support: human resources, finance resources and performance, field technology, and procurement. What's super fascinating about this UN guide is that it deliberately repeats its strategic mandates across all 4 of these sections. And why do they do that? Because these aren't isolated silos. The Quorum has to seamlessly integrate HR, finance, tech, and procurement to deliver one unified, robust service strategy that's built completely around regulatory coherence and efficiency.
But here's the thing. They aren't just maintaining the status quo. The Quorum is handling disaster recovery, ensuring business continuity, running the service desks, and most interestingly, they are tasked with monitoring the client experience and actually running pilot projects for service improvement. So the Quorum is really an innovator. They have to make sure that a 60-year-old mission doesn't become rigid or stagnant, but is actually continuously evolving.
Section 4. The 10 strategic dimensions, the blueprint of the 50 points. Let's move to and see how this builds into the exact framework used to analyze the Quorum role in the toolkit.
This source document is incredibly thorough. I mean, it breaks the Quorum's responsibilities down into 50 distinct strategic points, and each one of these 50 points is treated as a completely self-contained analytical unit.
And for every single one of those 50 points, the toolkit applies a highly specific 10-dimension diagnostic blueprint. They analyze the rationale, the alignment with the mandate, implementation. They go all the way through stakeholders, resources, risk, monitoring, technology, capacity building, and, finally, long-term impact. It ensures literally no rock is left unturned. It is the ultimate diagnostic blueprint for UN mission support. Let's zoom in on just a couple of these dimensions so you can see how this works in practice.
Take the fourth dimension, stakeholders. The Quorum isn't just managing internal staff, right? They have to navigate widely diverging views between UN headquarters in New York, the actual field offices in Cyprus, the governing bodies, member states, and donor partners. It's a massive balancing act. It requires maintaining completely open, two-way communication channels, ensuring everyone's expectations are managed and transparently documented.
Or look at the sixth dimension, risk. The Quorum cannot act in a vacuum. The toolkit heavily emphasizes using structured risk registers to handle diverging positions, data quality drift, and sudden external shocks. And here's a fascinating detail from the source. The Quorum is expected to track near misses. Incidents that could have caused a huge disruption, but thankfully didn't. And they track those with the exact same rigor as actual incidents. That is proactive management at its absolute finest.
Section 5. Navigating liquidity and change, the ultimate impact. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it highlights arguably the greatest challenge in the toolkit, a stark contrast in mission styles. While newer missions might focus heavily on rapid mandate expansion and evolution, the UNFICP way is entirely different. This toolkit explicitly requires the ORM to have proven experience managing resources, staffing, and budgets during periods of severe liquidity constraint. Financial stress isn't a rare emergency here. Navigating a tight budget with absolute cost discipline is just a standard operating requirement for the role.
And this disciplined, realistic approach dictates every practical choice the Quorum makes, especially when it comes to technology. Instead of buying massive, wildly expensive single-phase system overhauls, the strategy dictates incremental, modular investments. And crucially, these systems absolutely must work in low-bandwidth or offline environments. Think about it. If a duty station out in the buffer zone loses high-speed internet, the missions administration can't just throw its hands up and stop functioning. The tech has to be as resilient as the peacekeepers themselves.
So, what is the ultimate impact of applying this exhaustive 10-dimension framework across all 4 pillars? Well, it reduces administrative disputes, it drastically lowers transaction costs, and it creates highly predictable operating conditions. But the toolkit notes something truly wonderful. The real measure of success for the Quorum is when the staff would actively resist reverting to the old ways of working. That level of embedded preference means a true culture of continuous improvement has finally been achieved. Which leaves us with this final thought. UNFICP has honed this engine room down to a science over 6 decades. But as international organizations everywhere face tighter budgets and mounting liquidity constraints, is this exhaustive 50-point CORM blueprint just for Cyprus? Or are we looking at the future survival standard for peacekeeping missions worldwide? It is a fascinating question and really a testament to the incredible, often unseen administrative work that sustains global peace. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I hope you found this deep dive as captivating as I did.